full-time MMA? Nothing else?
My life, man, yeah.
Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Back to the daily grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back pickle biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time
MMA.
This is the UFC 217 press conference recap. It was a pretty good press conference, so I suggest you actually go watch it for yourself with the actual video. And Michael Bisping and Georges St. Pierre, they got into it a little bit. Michael Bisping brought a little bit of the bad side out of Georges St. Pierre. He got him going a little bit. I was like, okay, look at George go. You know what I'm saying? He was pointing and shit like, hey, I'm going to do whatever I want. Hey, it was good stuff. So, and then we had TJ Dillashaw up there, Cody Garbrandt, Namajunas, Jedrzejczyk, Michael Bisping, Georges St. Pierre, and Dana White. So I'm gonna just talk about it not like in order of each question. I'm just going to talk about Michael Bisping and Georges St. Pierre, then Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, and then Namajunas and Jedrzejczyk. So with that being said, Michael Bisping and Georges St. Pierre, they got into it a little bit. Michael Bisping, he was the main man. He's one of the guys that's really good at selling the fight. He's really good at press conferences, kind of like Conor McGregor, kind of like Kevin Lee, kind of like these dudes that, they're comfortable trash talking in a press conference environment. So he was up there and he was talking a lot of shit. He was accusing Georges St. Pierre of coming back but still doing steroids. He said he looks like a swollen lizard. He said it's in. Michael Bisping was like, hey, I'm 15-0 at light heavyweight and I'm the world champion in middleweight. So and with that being said, I think people do need to put a little more respect on Michael Bisping's name, because he made a good point. When USADA came in, I became the champion. He also did say when USADA came in, Georges St. Pierre left, but USADA's here now and Georges St. Pierre's back, so I don't really understand how that point's valid, because he's here now with USADA, but he is going up in a weight class. They asked Georges St. Pierre about why he's going to 185 now, and people talk about how he never wanted to fight Anderson Silva at 185. And he said, well, the only time I was really offered Anderson Silva fight after I fought Johnny Hendricks, it was when I already decided to pretty much retire, to go on vacation and get away from everything. So I wouldn't have fought a 3-foot midget. He said I wouldn't have fought anybody, even Anderson Silva. And he said when I was fighting and defending my belt, it didn't make sense to go up and try and change my body to be middleweight when I'm still defending my belt as a welterweight. So there was never a time when I was defending my belt, and then whenever I retired, I wasn't going to fight anybody. So that's why I didn't fight Silva. But now I'm coming back and I'm ready to move up. I got my body as he's getting his body ready as a middleweight. He's putting more muscle on, and he said also he's obligated to defend the belt if he wins. He's obligated to fight Robert Whittaker. So he can't fight Tyron Woodley after this fight. If he wins, he will be defending the belt versus Robert Whittaker. Well, that's where Michael Bisping jumped in and said, well, yeah, but you're not going to be fucking winning this fight, dude. I'm about to whoop your ass. And then you're going to retire because you're a fucking quitter. He said, he didn't say you're a quitter, but he said, and then you're going to fucking retire. He pretty much said he was a quitter, but this is exactly what he said. He said, the saying is, at first you don't succeed, then try again. It's not he said, if there's any little kids listening, or if there's any kids listening to this, the saying is, if at first you don't succeed, try again. It's not if at first you don't succeed, you run and hide like a little bitch. Oh, hey, whenever he set it up at first, I was like, oh shit, he's shouting out a message to the kids. The kids, the saying is, if at first you don't succeed, and then he came through with a not. If at first you don't succeed, you go run and hide like a little bitch. Oh, that was pretty funny. But, so yeah, Michael Bisping did his thing in the press conference. Georges St. Pierre held it down. He said, Michael Bisping was like, man, tell him how you're going to beat me. We all know when you're playing, you're going to do the same thing. Working with Freddie Roach, who's a great boxing coach, but he doesn't know a fuck all about MMA. He said, I pray to God Freddie Roach tries to turn you into a boxer and you try to strike with me, because then I'll knock your ass out. He said, but we know you're not going to do that. You're going to wrestle. You're going to, try and bore us to death with the fight like you do when you talk. And George St. Pierre was like, no, I'm gonna do whatever I want to you. I'll strike with you, I'll take you down, I'll submit you, and if you get back up, I'll strike with you again. I'm gonna do whatever I want to you. And that's when he was pointing. But hey, Bisping was holding it down, George St. Pierre held it down. It was a fun little exchange. I'm looking forward to the fight. And so yeah, and of course George St. Pierre threw the "Are you intoxicated?" line, like, you know, 4 or 5 times like everybody does. But hey, that is a valid question. It's a valid question. So with that being said, Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw showed up. They talked a little trash. Michael Bisping and George St. Pierre mainly dominated the press conference, but Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw definitely had their moments as well, because they've got beef, you know. TJ Dillashaw was saying he doesn't really feel much pressure, you know, because they were saying, do you feel like some of the pressure's relieved because the Ultimate Fighter was so long ago? And he was like, I don't really feel, you know, like the pressure. I feel like the pressure, you know, there's not too much pressure, but it's about getting my camp situated and not overtraining. And Cody Garbrandt was like, he came through, he you know, he interrupted and was like, yeah, 'cause you've been bouncing around gyms like a prostitute corner and shit. Damn. Came through. Oh yeah, and that's another thing about that. Boy, this dude TJ Dillashaw came through with this dude was so orange. He's been out in California, you know, he was in Denver, now he's out in California. It looks like this motherfucker got a spray tan and then hopped in the motherfucking tanning bed and then went and laid in the sun. That motherfucker was orange like a Oompa Loompa. I promise, he had the same color skin as a motherfucking Oompa Loompa, bro. If a Oompa Loompa had blonde hair, that motherfucker would be TJ Dillashaw, except for, you know, Oompa Loompas are fat and small, but either way, TJ Dillashaw's small, but he's not fat. But that nigga looked like a fucking UFC Oompa Loompa. I promise that nigga was orange on everything, boy. But that's all good, man. He's been out there in that California sun changing camps. Speaking of tramps and fucking bouncing around like a prostitute, as Cody Garbrandt said. But you get the point, man. Dude was orange as fuck, and him and Cody Garbrandt were going at it. He said, you know, he feels good about the fight. He's gonna beat Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt, of course, said he's not. He's got a baby on the way. He said TJ, I think he said, like TJ Dillashaw does too, they might both have baby boys on the way. And if that's the case, he said, potentially, you know, there could be a Garbrandt versus Dillashaw, like their kids be fighting in the future. Yeah, that would be dope. Tell me that wouldn't be dope, but that would make me feel old as fuck the day I watched that. But either way, he said something about that. I mean, you know, we already know the beef between them, the Team Alpha Male beef. Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw said one thing about him switching all these camps. He said, at least I'm learning and not just sitting around learning from a bunch of has-beens. Like, ooh, burned his old friends team Alpha Male. Motherfucking snake in the grass. Let's go, fucking TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. Also on the card, then Joanna Jedrzejczyk and Rose, they didn't say much at all. Joanna, of course, was talking about she would love to break Ronda Rousey's record, 6 title defenses. This fight would do that. She said Rose is not on her level, but she's beat everybody. If you look down the list, she's beat everybody. Now it's Rose's turn to get her ass beat. So with that being said, that's what she's planning on doing and breaking Ronda Rousey's record in Madison Square Garden. She appreciates the motherfucking opportunity to fight at Madison Square Garden. She said she used to fight a lot more in Muay Thai, like more than 3 times a year. I don't know if she said 4, but she used to fight a lot more. But she said she's fighting 2 or 3 times a year. She's fine with the, you know, lesser schedule in MMA or whatever, but she used to fight a lot, and now she's fine with fighting 2 or 3 times a year. Rose didn't really say much. She got like 1 or 2 questions in. She said she feels like she's ready, grateful for the opportunity, and it is what it is. With that being said, I've got the live stream scheduled on Full Time MMA 2 for an hour and a half from now, and I'm going to be on that bit. So I'm going to get back to the MMA news after the live stream on that bitch. Talk about whatever, come over, ask a question, say what's up, motherfucking let's get it. It is what it is. Let the haters know what the fuck you type in the comments. I'm out. The dudes hating on Full Time MMA are the type of dudes that spray cologne in the air and then shimmy into the mist.
Bye, Felicia.